All right, let's talk about that one interview question. You know the one. The one that can pretty much reveal your entire philosophy of care in a single answer. If you nail it, you're going to stand out. But if you stumble, well, you might be out of the running. So today, we're going to break that question down and figure out how to build the perfect response together.
So, the question itself sounds pretty simple, right? How do you promote independence? But here's the thing. It's not simple at all. It's actually designed to test your real understanding of empowerment, of safety, and the core principles of recovery. Honestly, answering this one well could be the difference between getting that job offer or that thanks but no thanks email.
Yeah, so this is definitely not a throwaway question. It's a huge opportunity, a really high-value one, to show off both your skills and your compassion. If you can nail this, you're showing that interview panel exactly the kind of professional you are.
Okay, so before we even start crafting the perfect answer, we've got to understand the foundation. What are the interviewers really listening for when they ask this question? Let's break down those core principles.
Think of this as your secret checklist for a killer answer. First, you've got to show you get that independence is all about empowerment, not just abandoning someone. You need to be using that person-centered language. You should definitely mention working with a multidisciplinary team, and, this is a big one, explain how you balance risk. And to really seal the deal, you'll want to talk about measurable outcomes and drop in some of those key professional terms.
And really, the most crucial point is this. There's a really fine line between promoting independence and, well, neglecting a resident. A great answer shows you know exactly how to provide that scaffold of support that lets someone build their own skills, instead of just pulling away the help and, hoping for the best.
Okay, so we have the principles. Awesome. But how do you organize all of that into a story that actually makes sense, especially when you're under pressure in an interview? Well, you use a blueprint. Seriously, having a structure is your secret weapon for giving a clear, confident answer every single time.
And there are a couple of really great options for this. You've probably heard of the STAR framework. That's situation, task, action, and result. It's a classic for a reason, especially for these behavioral questions. Then there's also the CARE framework, which focuses on compassion, autonomy, respect, and empowerment. Now, both of these are fantastic, but for what we're doing today, we're going to focus on STAR, just because it's so good at helping you create that clear, compelling story that interviewers really connect with.
So what the STAR framework does is it basically transforms your experience into a story. A really compelling one, with a clear beginning, a middle, and an end. It just guides the interviewer through a real-world example of your skills, and it makes your experience feel so much more tangible and, frankly, way more impressive.
All right, enough theory. Let's see how this framework actually builds a powerful response. We're going to deconstruct a model answer piece by piece, so you can see exactly how STAR gives it all that power and clarity.
Okay, first up, the situation. Notice how specific this is. It isn't some vague statement, it's a concrete scenario. This immediately grounds your answer in the real world and shows the interviewer, hey, I'm not just talking hypothetically here, I've actually done this. Next up is the task. This part clarifies your role, right? What were you actually trying to achieve? The goal here is super professional and person-centered. Help them regain confidence and routine. See how that gives this story a really clear purpose? And now for the action. This is really the heart of your answer. This is where you detail the how. You worked with the team, you set small, achievable goals, you use positive reinforcement, and, this part is so key, you gradually reduce support. You're basically ticking all those boxes from our checklist, but you're doing it in a natural, story-like way.
And finally, the result. This is your proof. What actually happened because of what you did? Well, the residents started doing tasks on their own, their confidence went up, and their relapse indicators went down. I mean, these are measurable, meaningful outcomes that prove your approach worked. It just closes the loop perfectly.
And that is why the STAR framework is so powerful. It takes what could be just a personal story and turns it into a professional case study. It shows your process, your thinking, and how effective you are in a way that just telling a story never could. So, you've told your story using the STAR method, and your answer is already really strong. But how do you take it from great to absolutely unforgettable? Let's talk about adding that polished finish for maximum impact.
So after you've laid out the result, you can tack on a powerful closing statement like this one. See, it's not just repeating what you did. It's explaining what you learned from it, what you believe in. This is what elevates your answer from just one example to a real statement of your professional philosophy. It shows the interviewer you're a deep thinker, not just someone who follows a list of tasks. And that leaves a lasting impression.
And as you're telling your story, Try to weave in some of these polished phrases. For example, when you're in the action part, you could say something like, "My approach was to balance positive risk-taking with safe practice." Using phrases like these just shows you're fluent in the language of modern person-centered care, you know? These are the little details that make you sound less like a candidate and more like a leader.
So there you have it. We've deconstructed the question, we've identified the core principles, and we've built a model answer using a really powerful framework. The blueprint is all yours now. Just remember, your own experiences are unique and they are so valuable. So the only question left is, how are you going to use this blueprint to tell your own story and land that job?